Welcome in, everybody. Michael here. We're going to give this a second for people to come into the room, and then I will get started. I'll show you guys how to get up to $50 million in funding without a hassle, starting shortly here. And in the meantime, you guys can always visit viralfundingsolutions.com. That's where you can get the latest information, all types of business, real estate funding, building business credit, many opportunities for you to take advantage of. So make sure to refer there. This one is going to be great. You guys don't want to miss it. Hi, welcome in. Like I said, I'm going to give this, I said 2:15. That should be at about a minute Pacific Standard Time for me to get started. But in the meantime, if you guys have it and you guys want to jot this down so you guys can refer to it, you guys can visit me at viralfundingsolutions.com. But I'm going to be showing you guys how to get up to $50 million in funding fast and without a hassle. So it'll be starting here between 2:15 and then 2:20. I can get the ball rolling. And I'm just going to put up a few notes, just a few steps. This isn't about calculations and showing you, okay, this is what you can expect to pay back. This is what you'll get in interest, if any. This will be the APR. And it's just going to be a whole encompass of business funding and real estate financing. So if you guys have any questions, let me know at any point in the comment section. Write them down for me. I do my best during this live and even afterwards to make sure I'm there for you. But again, we'll be starting here in a moment. We have this whiteboard on screen. That's what I'll be doing. So that's what we'll begin with. And let me know, how's your guys' day going? Where are you guys tuning in from? I'm sure you guys can hear my voice in the background. You guys will be able to see me in just a second. But like I said, again, we're going to be talking about how to get up to 50 million incredibly fast funding. And at any point, if you guys need help, let me appear right here. At any point, if you guys need help, make sure you go to the bio. In the link, you guys can submit a contact form with all the details for business and even real estate financing. I even do business credit. You guys go there, pick up the free video series. It'll show you how to build business credit appropriately, how I've been able to get access to over $250,000 in funding just through business credit alone. That's not tied to my social security number or a personal credit score. And if you want to go even as far as personal guarantees, make sure to refer to that. Had a little hiccup there. The screen fell. But again, I'll be starting here in just a moment. As you guys can see on the whiteboard, let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Leave it down below in the comment section. And at any point, again, make sure to refer to the bio. But like I said, I'm going to be showing you guys, for those of you just joining, the step-by-step process, the application process, more or less what you can be expecting, the differentiations between for submitting something online versus going to a bank, and so forth. But again, you guys, if you feel like this will be of value to you, I know we're not there yet, make sure you share this with others who could use business funding, who are in a moment right now. We're going through COVID, and we're all experiencing ups and downs, peaks and valleys. I specifically am too. Junior here is saying, I tried to get a loan, but no one wanted to help. Can you give me more specific information why nobody wanted to help you? What specifically was their criteria? What were they looking for that maybe didn't help? And this way I can show you a little bit more. So we'll be starting here right now. Let me get into this. So for those of you watching here, I thought I was going to get into here. Let me move. I don't know if you guys can see me that well. Okay, let me move this back a little bit. I'm just going to move this back just a little bit so you guys can see me a little bit better. Yeah, let's get this out of the way there. One of my stands broke, so I had to use a different one. So I'm putting this right here at the moment. There we go. I have to use this temporary device. Okay. All right. So you guys already know the website if you guys have been there. So the step-by-step process for you guys to understand when you're trying to get a business loan is, first of all, you got to assess your needs. So the first step that I would take, step 1 here, what are your needs? And what I mean by that is you have to ask yourself, why do I need this funding? Right, and that brings up a whole subset of questions. Why? You can even ask how I plan to use these funds. What type of funds am I needing? When will I be using these funds? And those are all very common questions. So we always want to start off with the who, what, where, when, why, how, when determining what are our needs for funding. A lot of the times we expect to get these funds deposited into our account, but we truly do not understand the meaning behind why we need it. And there may be other places to look for, you're just not looking in all the right ones because you are unfamiliar with certain territories, and so you're led to believe that there's only one way to do this when there are multiple ways. I've explained to many people who have been wanting to get a business loan without a personal guarantee, people who don't want a personal credit check. And let's face it, for the most part and the majority, you have to go through a personal credit check. Reason being is because people need to look at your credit history. And that determines how much funding you can get. That's part of the fundability factor, and it's not all of it. But coming back to this, step 1, what are your needs for getting funding? Why do I need my funding? How will I get it? And that's where a lot of you guys are stuck on, is how will I be able to? We'll put a little circle there. But we need to identify why, how can we get it? But we need to first go from why to what, and then we need to go to when, and then we got to determine how we're going to get this funding. So a lot of us, we skip these little things, and I know this sounds so minute to so many of you. You're like, oh my God, this guy's breaking down business funding 101. Seriously? Like, this stuff can go on for hours, and it could, but I'm not going to do that. And so the problem then becomes is when you're seeking out funding, you immediately want to go from how can I find funding online? And so what you ignore is, why do you really need the funding? Because without a strong enough why, listen to me, without a strong enough why, and I've been in your position, I know the feeling when you don't get the right funding, you don't get what you're asking for. A lot of the time it's because you do not understand the real reason why you need it. And you're so quick to say, yes, somebody's showing me how to get a business loan, real estate financing, but you don't have the idea yet of, hey, do I really need this funding? And you start to imagine a little bit about what that funding can do for you. And it kind of goes like down this rabbit hole where you're like, if I had this funding, then I'd be able to do this. Now, I'll go check if anybody is leaving me comments in a little bit, but ask yourself why you really need to use the funding. Because I speak to so many people who I give you the options, or I give you one if that's all you can qualify for, and there's not enough strong enough of a need. Like, I'll say, hey, this is what you qualify for, but a lot of people are not as happy with the reality of how it goes. But let me come back over here and see if anybody's had left me any questions. I'm looking through some of these. You guys keep leaving them for me. I'll try to look through them so I don't drop this, because again, I'm standing it up somewhere right now. Let me look at the rest of these comments. Okay, again, I'm propping this thing up. So I'm going to try to refer to the comments a little bit later. So I still haven't gotten that response yet, why nobody's helped you get your funds. So step one here would be, what are the needs? And you have to have a strong enough reason why you want that. If you don't have enough strong reason why you need those funds, no matter how much of an offer you get, no matter what people actually tell you can qualify for, it's not going to be enough to you. And so then we got to look at another one, step 2. Anybody can make any guesses on what this will be? Leave them in the comment section. I know it's not as easy always to determine that. But we need to look at a deeper level. And we need to start looking at, we tend to start looking at these things that we shouldn't. This is where I want to go. So step 2 for most of us then becomes, what are the terms and rates? So these are predictable steps we go through without, this is relating, okay? This is me saying, okay, if we're starting from the very beginning, this is our thought process. So we try to determine why, when, where, how is like the last thing we should be looking at. How we're going to get those funds. Before that, we need to determine everything else before. And so then it always becomes, what are the terms? What are the rates? Everybody has an expectation. I know I did when I started, that you want to have like the lowest possible, whether it's real estate financing or you are in the business loan type of space and you're trying to figure out, if I get low enough of an interest, that means I'll get longer terms and then I'll be offered this monthly payment. That's not always how it works. That way it works in the SBA loan world, but when you come to alternative private money lending, that's not always on the table. In fact, you usually get medium to higher interest rates as opposed to these low scores or these low interests. So, and it's based off of different evaluation. So a lot of us always ask, what are the terms? What are the rates? And we always want to get these like, hey, give me monthly. 2+ years is a very common assessment. And then I will take, give me something like between a 5% to a 7% in interest rates. And, we call it good. We dust off our hands. We go our separate ways. You never have to hear from me ever again. And so that is the common assessment we make when we're talking about how do our terms want to look. Now, in your mind, yes, you want a monthly, you want maybe something longer, you want a low interest rate. But what happens is, this is something that you will see in the SBAs of the worlds. This may be something you'll see in the real estate investing world. But if you're not in one of those two buckets, a lot of the times what you're expecting to see up here ends up then becoming much higher of an interest rate. So then we're talking, no longer are we talking about those 5 to 7%. We're talking maybe 20% to even 50% plus if you're dealing with these loan sharks that don't give a rats about what you can qualify for. But the reality is we're living in this 20 to 50% percentile. Right? Think about it like as a scatter box. I don't know if you guys did any of this in high school, maybe in college. I know I did this when I was in statistics in college, high school as well. I did a lot of calculus. I did a lot of different math. I've done a lot of different, like I took chemistry, took all the courses, business you can think of. But what you need to start living in is the world down here. Like we got to start assessing whether these terms and rates are even plausible. But most of us like to start off in this 5% to 7%, more or less, type of bucket, and we don't want to get out of that. We don't want to spurt out, right? So we just stay stuck here thinking that we can just get this and this, when the reality is to get that you have to come over here and start thinking SBAs, or you might even be thinking a grant. Once you hear you don't get that, a lot of the times you'll start thinking, what are my grant options? I couldn't apply. I got denied for an SBA EADL, or I've tried to apply for different SBA 7A and 504 type of loans, but the reality is that you keep getting declined, and there's too much of a problem there. And so what is your third option when none of that happens? You turn to these private lenders, and then you come to think about, when I give you an assessment that you don't qualify, or you just don't want to take the like a 20% to 50% of an interest rate, and I'm not calculating again here every little math scenario, but this is what ends up happening. Once we step away from step one, we determine those needs, and then we kind of think about what are the terms and the rates that are out there. That's more of the how, and that's how we start evaluating what programs we can get into, and we make these assessments on a set standard and a set belief that somebody has shown you, or somebody has probably tried to email you a million times. But you live in this world here where we're thinking monthly 2-year payments, 5% to 7%, more or less. Again, if that's not the case, what can I qualify, if anything, for a grant? And that may come before that. We're talking about SBAs for real estate and investing as well, if you may not qualify for that. And then the other option we have are these private lenders for alternative lending, where you can get more or less between that. But to get here, as I communicated with somebody already today, is not exactly will you fall in the 50 percentile, okay? And before I tell you what you can expect if you fall there or less, is we have to evaluate. So we have to, over here I'm going to put evaluate. Come on, this side over here really quickly. So we want to evaluate. Over here, we want to evaluate whether you will qualify for 50% or less. Ideally, many of us don't want too high of an interest, but we're willing to be flexible and see, hey, can we qualify from 20% to 30%? Or what is the total payback amount? And once I get that evaluation, then I'll have a better understanding. And you might still be in the phase where you're trying to shop around, because I know the mindset. I've been there, I've lived it. And so I know what you're going through. You're like, this guy right here doesn't understand what he's talking about. But the thing is, the truth is, you have to live in this world a lot of the times. And I know it doesn't sound fancy. It doesn't sound like, why should I be doing that? And why do you see my business this way? So let me quickly come over here to this side, see if anybody has any questions. He's not even shaking? What do you mean by that? Boring, get to the meat? Okay, tell me what meat you're speaking about. See, a lot of the times, that tends to become the problem, is whether you know it or not everybody else does. And to get to the meat, we have to go through the appetizers. And sometimes when you're taking appetizers, I don't know if you're like me, but I take my time. I take my time when I'm eating. I don't become impatient. And I savor every little bite. And whether it takes me 20 to 30 minutes before I get to the main course, it's okay. So what happens here is you end up looking through the terms and the rates, and I'm going to get there in this next step. for those of you who are like, we'll get to the point already. I'm getting to the point right now. Is you have this assessment with your terms and rates not being where you want them to. And maybe you've come to that realization and you're like, okay, now let's learn about the next thing. So now moving on to the next point here. Let's move all this over. We have to look at, okay, step 3. What are my qualifications? To get that 50 million over here, do I even qualify? And not every program alone is going to give you up to 50 million. This can be dispersed into different ones. This can be a real estate investing program that gives you up to 50 million. And then you have another program that can get you up to 2 million. But the point isn't to stack. Whenever you take out like a loan, you don't always want to stack offers. So let's say somebody shows you can get a 100K offer here, but you don't have the full amount. You want it actually 200K. Now you're thinking, I'm going to go to a different company and see if I can get approved. I did, okay, but will they be able to accept? Will I be able to accept the offer without them finding out? So when you're starting to stack loan after loan, and some companies allow it, it's not everybody does, and it's not a great practice to take on. When you take on too many loan considerations, it just ends up being a mess. It ends up there ends up being a lot of fluctuations. There ends up being a lot of misleading advice out there, and so you have to be careful. So what are my qualifications to get 50 million? So the basic things we got to look at, and this again, guys, if you're just joining me, this is just 101 stuff. This isn't anything out of the, it's gonna blow your mind, Albert Einstein stuff, because if I really wanted to, I could do that. I can get on here and show you all these math equations, and I just love explaining things that way. And so the thing is, when you're looking at qualifications, at the very top, you don't want to have non-sufficient funds. So you have to look at yourself. I've had a lot of people this week come in and they didn't get approved. They applied for a program up to 2 million, and there's been a lot of them. They did not get approved because they have overdrafts, non-sufficient funds, and that also leads to the next part, that is in conjunction, negative bank statements. So we don't want to see any negative bank statements, at least within the last 3 months, no more than 5 non-sufficient fund days. And if that were to be the case, that could automatically disqualify you. So no types of overdrafts. We look at the bank statements to determine a lot of this, and we will look also for things like FICO. So this is one thing that a lot of people may struggle in, because your FICO, your credit score, doesn't have enough payment history. It doesn't show you maybe taking out some type of a mortgage, paying off some type of an insurance. You don't have these types of payment history built up into your account that will qualify for you having that. Or if you're taking on too much debt, right, the debt to income ratio, your utilization rate's over 30%. I highly advise having that less, not even 30, but it's like the battery's going down. Here, let me move this out of the way. All right, everybody, let me move this over. Hopefully you guys got to see that last part. I know my battery percentage is low. I'm not even sure if it's at 20 anymore. It's at maybe 10%, but you guys have a better understanding of how do you get up to 50 million. You got to look at a bigger picture. You can't say, well, how can I get funding? You got to look at it and say, well, what is my need for funding? Why do I really need it? When will I need it? Why, when, where, what, how? The basics. This isn't anything extraordinary, but it's like when you go to class, you got to figure these things out too. But before you start asking, when I put that up here, a lot of people were like, well, just show me the program. If I just showed you the program, what would that then do? You'd still have questions about it, right? And then when I go through the whole process, people still are like, well, it doesn't make sense to me. And then I have to kind of go backwards now and ask, what do you really need to use the funds for? And when you don't really need the funds, then we're now back at square one. And so I'm not here to waste my energy as well as your energy. I'm here to help you, make sure I bring you enough value so that you understand that when you get a business loan or real estate financing, that you have to stop looking at the end goal. You have to stop looking at, I want 60,000, and start reverse engineering that and start thinking about what will it take to get there? What is the process for me to get my 60K in funding? And then you got to ask yourself, like, who do I need to become in my business as a person to be able to get to that 60K? So instead of looking at it like, again, we're talking about a dartboard and we're throwing in these darts on the outer circle or an electron orbit. I like to refer to things like that. Chemistry. I love chemistry stuff. But at the outer ring, you see all these like little orbits and the electrons just kind of sitting on the end there. And you're asking yourself, well, this is what I want. I want 60K. But wait a minute. Let's go behind. Let's peel the onion in reverse. And let's look at the middle. In the middle, let's move this over. I know the sun's in the way. In the middle, what you need to start looking at is, what is the process? What does that process look like for me? For me, not for anybody else. What will the process take for me to get my 60K in funding? And even before what you say, you have to say, who do I have to become if I want to get that 60K? It's like anything else in life. Who do I have to become to be able to get that 60K? And without understanding those layers of this onion, then, it's just going to be a quick roadblock. So if you want to quickly get, funding like this, you got this. Let me turn this over so you guys can see. Before you get this suitcase, this case right here, you get this deposit into your account. You open it over here. Let's move this over. You open it, and this is what you want to see, right? You want to open it and be able to see this whole box of chips, or in other words, flowing cash coming through. And you want to be able to use that funding. You want to be able to use it in time and how you choose and what you apply the funding for. But until those things come into fruition, until you figure out those three things, again, you're going to continuously fall backwards. So I'm going to stick on here for a quick minute to see if anybody has any questions. And then I will wrap up. I'm going to kind of just erase the board while I'm doing this. But for anything, you guys refer to the bio if you guys want to fill out a quick submission form for business or real estate funding. And I also have a free checklist, free business credit building video series, as well as much more. So make sure to refer to that in the bio before I close up here. And just some closing thoughts. Always take a step back. If you don't get the offer you want, take a step back and ask yourself, does this really help me, or is it hindering me? And even ask yourself about the person trying to help you. Are they trying to hustle me? Are they being honest with me? I always try to be as honest with you guys. I just actually sent, I could show you guys, but I actually sent a person who reached out to me on the channel. He says, well, I need some help. So I told them where to go and submit some details. They submitted the details, and I followed up with them through an email. And I gave them all the information they needed, all their options, their qualifications, the how it works. Gave them multiple options to understand what can best fit their needs. Unlike other programs out there and other people who are just trying to call you to say, hey, I got a merchant cash advance. You guys want to take this? No, I don't do that. So hopefully you guys got value out of this video. Maybe I'll get on later tonight. I got to go do a workout, and then I'm going to relax for a bit. Haven't had lunch. I don't really want to really eat lunch. Which, hey, if you guys are Cinnabon fans, man, we had Cinnabon last night, and that got me tired so fast. I was just laying on the couch like, why did I even eat this? Deliciously, but I thought a second after, I'm like, wow, I could feel the huge difference. And we had Mexican food before that, and man, are those great, but are they dangerous? So that's going to conclude everything in this video. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys' time. I know those of you who are watching right now got a lot of value, hopefully. And I do take notice of that, like I say in every video. It's important for me to know who sticks around, who just comes, who's here for a short, not a long time, and that you're really taking this serious, because I'm as serious as anybody else. And that's all. Thank you guys. Bye.